Lin Qingping was a demon who helped his younger brother in his past life. She had no children all her life, bought a house and a car for her younger brother and nephew, and made a will to inherit all her assets to her nephew. However, in the hospital bed, her nephew unplugged the oxygen tube. On her deathbed, she remembered the man who had passed away early and left all his wealth to her in a new life. She only wanted to love him well and make up for the debt in the previous life. Unexpectedly, he became so indifferent when he was young. Lin Qingping. Juncheng. If you dare to leave this room today, I will inform the whole village tomorrow. You can't do it. Juncheng. Hmph, I don't believe it. Can't I take you down? Rebirth+wealth creation+daily life+raising children. Chapter 2. Pain. You are listening at novel-full.audio. No. Even if it hurts, hypocritically grit your teeth. But obviously, he doesn't believe it. I don't know where he got the red potion and cotton from, holding her hand and carefully applying it to her wound. The medicine is cool and stimulates the wound. It really hurts. She bit her lips tightly in pain, her features wrinkled together and remained silent. He gave her a faint glance and said, I asked for it. After speaking, he released her hand, put away the medicine, and prepared to open the door. As she saw him going out again, she shouted anxiously, Where are you going? He was startled by her shout and turned around. Have you ever thought about me? If you don't sleep in the same room as me, what would your mother say about me? She choked. Mom doesn't know. She doesn't know how to do it in front of you. What happened after you left? She looked unhappy. I don't care. You walked out of this door today to try it out. He seemed somewhat helpless, but in the end, he still didn't leave. He just took the blanket from the cabinet, made a bed, and lay down silently. At night, a deathly silence fell. Quiet, she could hear her panicked and chaotic heartbeat, thump, thump. She felt that she didn't want to continue like this. She held on to her jumping chest, let out a low scream, jumped out of bed, and ran towards his bunk, smoothly squeezing together with him. He sat up suddenly, his eyes flickering with a beastly guarded coldness in the darkness. What are you doing? Like she did something wrong, interrogative tone. She was trembling all over, but her mind was spinning rapidly, pointing to her bed and saying, There. There are mice. He stood up and turned on the light, tossed around in her blanket for a while, then turned around with a cold face and asked her, Where are the mice? With a tower-like figure and a sharp gaze, she murmured in a low voice under his pressure, It's just that. Now, maybe we've run away. He stood there, like an iron tower, silent. She just closed her eyes and I won't say anything if you don't say it. In the end, he spoke first and said, I don't have it now, go back to your bed and sleep. Oh. Oh. Lin Qingping slowly got up from his bunk, sat next to his bed, and watched him turn off the lights and sleep on the bunk again. She gave a sly smile and ran towards him again, skillfully and quickly squeezing by his side. So what's going on? His voice exploded in the darkness. She clearly recognized his impatience, but so what? She squeezed tighter and pressed tightly against him, still. Still afraid, what if the mouse comes back? Juncheng. Whatever you want, he said coldly, ending tonight's conversation and sleeping motionless, as if he no longer wanted to talk to her. She leaned against him, closed her eyes, and curved the corners of her mouth. He's really hot on him. In the summer, she leaned against him like a stove, but she didn't plan to move either. However, in the darkness, he suddenly opened his mouth. I happen to have a few days off this time. Let's find a time to get married and divorced. Lin Qingping. What does it mean? Unexpectedly getting divorced. Didn't this happen in my previous life? She sat up suddenly and looked straight at him in the darkness, her face tense, and she burst out, Juncheng. You're really scumbag. Juncheng was dumbfounded by her scolding. Lin Qingping looked angry and said, I have already married you. The wedding was also held in a lively manner. Who from all over the country doesn't know that I am your Gu Juncheng's wife? How long have we been married? You're going to divorce me. What do you want me to do in the future? Gu Juncheng was stunned for a moment and said, I can tell the people outside that it's my fault, it's my fault. So what? It's still me who will suffer from others' spitting and stardom. I'm such a beautiful girl, I'm going to become a second marriage for no reason. Can I still get married? Who else will want me? Besides, you're still in the army, what will others say about me? Lin Qingping retorted. Gu Juncheng suddenly fell silent. I don't care. Since I'm married to you, you have to take responsibility for me. You only stay at home for a few days a year, do you owe me countless debts? Are you still asking me for divorce? Gu Juncheng, I tell you, between me and you, I can only ask for divorce. You have no right to ask. Lin Qingping lay down after the incident, with her back to Gu Juncheng. Listening to the silence of the person behind him, Lin Qingping also felt that he was quite rogue, but if that's not the case, how can he dispel his idea of divorce? Hmph, Gu Juncheng, you are really remarkable. Surprisingly, I mentioned divorce. I didn't have this one in my previous life. Until the next morning, Lin Qingping's face remained tense. When eating breakfast, the pressure in the entire Gu family was very low. Although the breakfast this morning was good, because Gu Juncheng came back and everyone added an egg, no one ate very well. Even Lin Qingping's father.In.law and mother.In.law didn't dare to speak up. In fact, this daughter.In.law has been throwing dishes and behaving like a god for the past 6 months since she got married, and her temper is really unbearable. There is another person silently eating. Li Ziyuan. Li Ziyuan is the son of Gu Juncheng. But it's not biological, it's the child of Gu Juncheng's comrade in arms. The comrade sacrificed and the child was left unattended. Gu Juncheng brought him back to raise him. I should be 5 years old now, and I have been with the Gu family for almost a year. Because of this child, Gu Juncheng's childhood sweetheart's fiancée A.E. fell out with him, and in a fit of anger from the Gu family, he married her at a high price. Li Ziyuan probably knew that he was a trouble for Gu Juncheng and even the Gu family, so he stayed at the Gu family cautiously, quietly and rarely making any sound, almost not feeling his presence. In her previous life, Lin Qingping despised this child very much and never had a good face towards him for a few days. Most of the milk powder, nutritional supplements, and clothes and shoes worn by the boy sent back by Gu Juncheng were taken to her mother's house. This child had always grown up wearing inappropriate clothes. But it was such a child who came to the hospital to see her during her last days of illness, cooked hot soup, gave her money, and called her Mom. But this little money ended up in my nephew's pocket. Lin Qingping looked at the skinny Ziyuan and felt very sad. He gave him the eggs from his bowl. Just this action almost scared Ziyuan and he dropped his bowl. Others also looked at her, which was really abnormal. In the past, she was not humble. She ate the delicious food first, and brought the good things back to her parents. Respect for the elderly and love for the young did not exist with her. Lin Qingping felt a sense of awkwardness and cleared his throat. I feel suffocated and don't want to eat, he said. Ziyuan lowered his head, nibbling at the egg bit by bit, unsure if he dared not eat it or was reluctant to eat it. By the way, Qingzi, on your wedding day, you left in a hurry and didn't even go back to your door. After dinner, you accompanied the bottle back to your mother's house. Grandma Lu Fen looked at Lin Qingping's face, with a hint of easing the atmosphere. Chapter 1. If Everything Starts Again. You are listening at novel.Audio. Lin Qingping is dead. She died at the age of 68. She fell ill, but it was her good nephew who pulled out her oxygen tube that could have survived. She is the eldest in the family and has been helping her parents and younger brother throughout her life. Her mother coaxed her, asking her to buy a house and a car for her younger brother, nephews, and nieces, coax her to make a will and inherit all the property to her younger brother and nephew, coaxing her to say that when she gets old, her younger brother and nephew will take care of her. However, when she was sick, not only did she not receive a hot soup and meal from her brother and nephew, but her good nephew also unplugged her oxygen tube. At that time, her illness, as the doctor said, was not incurable, it just cost money. Her good nephew couldn't wait anymore and came to her single room at night to unplug her oxygen tube. She woke up feeling uncomfortable and wanted to call a doctor, but her nephew covered her mouth. Her nephew showed a fierce face and said, "Auntie, you're almost 70 years old. You're going to die anyway, why waste money again? You know, every day you're lying in the hospital, you're wasting my money. It's all mine." A tear slid down the corner of her eye. Is there any regret in her life? Yes, the thing she regrets the most is not treating him well. Her husband Juncheng, the man who sacrificed himself early, and for many, many years, she never met such a good person again. The ferocious face of her nephew gradually blurred in front of her, and in the last moment of her breath, the dark and tough face appeared before her. Juncheng. The name flashed through her mind and she completely lost consciousness. In that moment, the pain of regret filled her entire heart. Juncheng, if everything were to start over again, I would definitely not treat you like this. However, Lin Qingping never expected that everything could really start over again. She lay on the bed of Juncheng's old house, looking at the window under the light with the word, "double happiness," pasted on it, feeling uneasy. She returned to 48 years ago when she was 20 years old. That year, her mother received a dowry of 100 yuan from the Gu family, forcing her to marry them. She reluctantly married and looked down upon her husband, Juncheng, the second son of the Gu family. "I despise him for having dark skin, for being 7 or 8 years older than me, for being rude and uncivilized in the military, for carrying a child, for being too far away and throwing everything at me, including that child." She worked tirelessly in the Gu family, causing chaos and even moving everything from the Gu family to her mother's house. A few years later, Juncheng sacrificed himself. Despite her demeanor, Juncheng still left his last words in his suicide letter. "Leave all the pension for her, and I'm sorry for the delay in her youth." In the past few years later on, she was able to open a restaurant from a small county town to a city, and then to a big city. The pension he exchanged for his life was her start-up capital. Lin Qingping lay in bed with mixed thoughts. It was already dark, but Juncheng hesitated to enter the room. Half a year ago, she reluctantly married Juncheng. In order not to do the wedding night with Juncheng, she suffered from a cold illness and a high fever in the winter. The next day, Juncheng returned to the team due to an urgent task, so nothing had happened between her and him. Juncheng is a very intelligent person, and her thoughts cannot be hidden in front of him at all. She knows she doesn't want to, so for this family visit in his previous life, he found a reason to sleep in a separate room with her. Will he still do this in this lifetime? She carefully calculated in her heart that there were only 4 years left until his sacrifice. If this is the fate of her life, then in these years, no matter what, she must accompany him well. After much thought, she felt a surge in her heart and rushed out. Juncheng is taking a shower. She knows. In the shower room next to the pigsty, she heard the sound of splashing water. She took a deep breath to boost her courage, then rushed over and pushed open the crooked and unprepared door. Then, her eyes straightened. She has been married to him for a lifetime, yet she never knew he had such a great figure. Although his skin tone is darker, he is a soldier, okay. That kind of healthy masculinity, perfect muscle lines, can completely rival sculpture. She only despised him because she was blind in her previous life. Her gaze was tightly fixed on him, following the water droplets rolling on his skin, looking down bit by bit. At this moment, she is the little pearl of water. But Juncheng quickly wrapped himself up in a towel. "Get out." With a cold reprimand, he ordered her. I'll get the clothes you changed into." She blushed uncontrollably, grabbed his clothes casually, and fled in despair. When she left, her arms still hit the door frame, causing her immense pain. Returning to the room, her heart was still pounding wildly, and her eyes were filled with small droplets of water rolling on his bronze skin. She let out a whimper and slipped into the blanket, causing her arm to ache again. She secretly complained in her heart, it's really masculinity that misleads people. She forgot about her injured arm this morning. In the morning, she met a second-rate villager in the mountains and was about to get into trouble with her. When she was running away, she accidentally fell and cut a big piece on her arm. The wound had already stopped bleeding, but after 2 consecutive thrusts, she began to bleed again. She hissed in pain, only to hear the door ring. He's back. She quickly lay down. As soon as the door opened, it was indeed him who came in. He didn't wear anything, but wrapped himself up in an old cloth. Lin Qingping looked at the cloth and felt inexplicably disappointed. But he had a dark face and saw his clothes on the table. You took my clean clothes away, he said coldly. Lin Qingping. At that time, everything in my heart was in a mess. I didn't care whether it was clean or dirty. It's just an excuse. But we cannot let him reason. Who made you curse me? If you curse, I'll just. She held back, tears glistening in her eyes, looking extremely aggrieved. Juncheng. Juncheng was momentarily speechless, grabbed his clothes, and went out again. When I came back, I had already put on pants and a vest, a military green vest. My arms and shoulders were exposed, and residual water droplets flowed down the texture of my muscles. Lin Qingping was lost in sight until he walked over to her bed and stood still before suddenly regaining consciousness. He looked at her and squinted slightly, as if thinking. Her breathing was frozen. I never had this one in my previous life. Suddenly, the air was filled with damp moisture, making it suffocating. You. Ah. She was about to speak when she felt her hand pulled up. She exclaimed in surprise. Pain, he suddenly asked. The sudden low voice pressing down her throat interrupted her chaotic thoughts. Chapter 3. Mother's Family. You are listening at novel.Audio. Lin Qingping's nickname is Bottle. Juncheng picked up the rice quickly and let out a Hmph. My mother.in.law and father.in.law quickly withdrew and went to pack up the things that had returned to their door. When Lin Qingping finished eating slowly, everything was already ready. Lin Qingping looked at 4 large pieces of pork, a basket of eggs, a chicken, a duck, a fish, 2 bags of milk powder, and 2 pieces of new ingredients. This was already a very abundant gift in their rural area in the 1970s. Lu Fan said to Juncheng, wrap the red bag again. As he spoke, he occasionally looked at Lin Qingping's face to see if she was satisfied. Indeed, he knew that she was a master who went to her mother's house to pick things up. Juncheng responded with a yes, but Lin Qingping stood up and said, wait a minute. Lu Fan thought she was too young, and her face changed. Lin Qingping first took out 2 bags of milk powder and placed them aside. This is for Ziyuan to drink. He has a long body and drinking milk powder is good. In rural areas these days, milk powder is a rare commodity. Then Lin Qingping picked a piece of meat from the remaining pile, picked up a fish, and handed it to Juncheng to hold. He wiped his hands and said, that's all, that's enough. Lu Fan thought she had read wrong, widened her eyes, and Juncheng also showed a surprised expression. Let's go. Lin Qingping didn't say anything and grabbed Juncheng's arm before leaving. Lin Qingping's home is in the neighboring village and he has to walk there. Juncheng's footsteps are fast, but where can Lin Qingping keep up? As long as Juncheng walks fast, Lin Qingping won't leave and will stare at him in place. He walked a long way before realizing that she hadn't kept up, so he stopped and waited for her. After she caught up, we walked together. I walked non-stop for almost 2 hours before reaching the Lin family. At this time in the Lin family, her grandmother was still there, her younger brother was still young, and there was also a second sister in the family, 2 years younger than her. As soon as she entered, her family was very surprised, especially her breasts, who greeted her warmly. However, her gaze crossed over Juncheng, who was looking behind her. When she saw that Juncheng was only holding a piece of meat and a fish in his hand, his eyes clearly dimmed a lot. Juncheng is the most sensitive, how could he not feel it and feel uncomfortable standing there? Lin Qingping pulled him hard and sat him down. She took the meat and fish to the stove to clean up, and her mother accompanied her to talk to Juncheng. After a brief conversation, she said that her father, second sister, and younger brother had gone to work in the field and had not returned yet. Then, she started talking about the shortcomings of the local parents in the village and brought it to the main point. Do you remember that Mrs. Lin's family in the east of the village? Her daughter found a son-in-law from the town and bought a bicycle for her, which was very angry. Her mother said with a smile in her eyes. Oh, Lin Qingping responded faintly. In her previous life, there was also this incident. After her mother said this, she forced Juncheng to get a bicycle ticket. With the money given by Juncheng, she immediately added a bicycle to her family. Her younger brother rode it every day, wandering around. Her mother didn't get the answer she wanted, so she smiled and said, Zhao Di is about to get married. Our family has better conditions, so we can also get married. Yes, her sister's name is Zhao Di. It goes without saying why she is called this name. In her past life, her younger sister got married before she was 20, and even got married better than her. She exchanged 500 yuan for a dowry. It's just that the other person was lame and even beat someone. Her sister got pregnant twice and had miscarriages twice. Since she couldn't have a child later, getting beaten became a common occurrence. In the end, she fell ill and passed away at a young age. Change your second sister's name, it doesn't sound good to invite her, Lin Qingping, who had happily paid in the previous life, said. Her mother was shocked and smiled, it's just a small matter. Anyway, we already have your brother, so let's change it. This bicycle. Her mother said, and then she went to see Juncheng. I'll figure out a way to deal with this then. Juncheng readily agreed, but suddenly felt his thigh being pinched by a small hand, even with great force, and Lin Qingping took over the conversation. This is quite difficult, without tickets, we don't even have bicycles ourselves. Lin Qingping couldn't help but imagine the situation in her previous life when her mother encouraged her to buy a car for her brother. Everything has started from now on. Now I want a bicycle, a watch, and later on, I want a car, a house, and all my property. Her mother's smile had already begun to force. How could Mrs. Lin's family get tickets? Her son-in-law is from the town. Why didn't you sell me to the town back then? You want to sell me to a soldier. Soldiers are poor and have no skills, so they can't get it. Lin Qingping choked back straightforwardly, causing her mother's face to turn red. Selling, this word really doesn't sound good. Her mother changed her face, and Juncheng's face didn't look good either. She remained calm and knew that Juncheng had the ability, but what did she need these false names for? In her previous life, she was just too fond of fame, so she always responded to her requests. That's how it ended. Juncheng didn't think so. He spoke again, although it's a bit difficult. But before he could finish speaking, he was grabbed by Lin Qingping again, wishing he could give him a piece of flesh. Juncheng, okay, shut up again. Lin Qingping stood up and said, I went to the field to see my father and second sister, and then I went back. There are many things at home. Juncheng then prepared to pay a red envelope, and his thigh suffered for the third time. So, the red envelope didn't come out either. Her mother stood up to plead, you can go back after dinner. Your father and Zhao Di will both come back to eat later. Lin Qingping didn't stay, she really went to the ground. After saying hello to her father, she called her second sister aside to talk, which was her main purpose for coming back this time. The second younger sister was sweating profusely, sun-drenched, indicating that the work in the field was not light, but it was during the busy farming season when her younger brother disappeared without a trace. Despite experiencing this kind of life for the second time, Lin Qingping's heart was still filled with anxiety as she looked at her skinny second sister and said, "Mom, is she going to propose a marriage to you?" May hesitated for a moment, nodded, and lowered her eyes, concealing the sadness in her eyes. "Don't agree." Lin Qingping held her hand and handed her some money. "You can secretly take this money yourself, go buy a notebook and pen, and see if you can buy books. If you can buy them, buy them. If you can't buy them, I'll come up with a solution. Study hard and take the college entrance exam." The second sister couldn't believe it and stared at her sister with wide eyes. College entrance examination is the favorite topic for urban students in the village this year, but for a rural girl like her, it's even more unimaginable than picking the moon from the sky. "Listen to me. If my mother wants to propose a marriage to you, you must firmly refuse. If not, you can come to Gu family village to find me, and I will make the decision for you." Lin Qingping firmly abandoned these words and looked back at the skinny second sister working in the field. Tears welled up in her eyes. This time, she must change her life. Chapter 4. Back or hug, you choose. You are listening at novel.Audio. On the way back, Lin Qingping extended his hand to Gu Juncheng. "What?" Gu Juncheng looked at the slender little hand in front of him, unsure. "Where's the red envelope?" Lin Qingping asked with a cold face. Gu Juncheng was speechless because he gave the red envelope to his mother-in-law before leaving, which contained 80 yuan. "Hand it over," Lin Qingping said with a stern expression. "Gu Jun can't make a deal anymore. What I'm saying is, all the money and salary on your body." In fact, Gu Juncheng also paid in his previous life. When he returned to the army after this visit, he handed over all his assets to her. Upon hearing that it was for this, Gu Jun quickly dug out his pocket and put all the money on his body into her hand. "The fold is at home, I haven't brought it with me," he said. "Well, give it to me when you go back." Lin Qingping collected the money. "Gu Juncheng, I need to make a 3-chapter agreement with you." Gu Juncheng looked at her in surprise. "You have been in the army all year round, and this family is supported by me. You have a lofty goal to support, and the expenses are very high. Therefore, everything at home must be under my control. You must not make decisions without my permission. Every penny you use must be approved by me." Seeing Gu Juncheng still silent, Lin Qingping raised her delicate eyebrows and said, "Do you agree or disagree?" "Agree." Gu Juncheng has always been so decisive when speaking. Lin Qingping was satisfied and said, "All right, let's go home." Gu Juncheng breathed a clear sigh of relief. Is this not about asking about the red envelope anymore? But this tone of relief came earlier. It is an undeniable fact that Gu Juncheng married someone as his wife. Even if Lin Qingping is reborn, the character design of this work will never change. After taking a few steps, she has started a new journey. She fell far behind Gu Juncheng, staring at him who had already walked away. When Gu Juncheng found out that the person was missing again, he waited in the same spot as when the Buddha came, but Lin Qingping did not follow up as before and still stood still. Gu Juncheng had no choice but to turn back. Lin Qingping looked at the tall and straight person walking towards her, feeling hot in her heart. He looks really beautiful. Her facial features are handsome and three-dimensional, with clear and rugged contours. In her previous life, she was so blind that she only liked those white-faced scholars. "What's wrong?" he stood in front of her and asked. Her eyes were wet and she pouted, "My arm hurts, I can't walk anymore." Also showed him the area where the red potion had been applied on his arm. Gu Juncheng. What is the causal relationship between arm pain and being unable to walk? He doesn't quite understand, but he also responds with a tough face. Well, I'll walk slowly. This is the only solution he can think of. I can't leave. Lin Qingping dragged out her voice and stomped her feet, her eyes still wet as she looked at him. So. He didn't know what to do. You carry me on your back. Juncheng was stunned. Otherwise, just hold it. After hesitating for a while, Juncheng finally chose his back between his back and his embrace. Lin Qingping lay on his back as he wished, feeling his solid shoulders. Lin Qingping couldn't help but lean her head against his shoulder. She could feel Juncheng avoiding her, although she didn't know why. Perhaps it was because she clearly despised him when she first married him, but it's okay, she's reborn to save it. She lay on his shoulder, seeing more clearly the green stubble on his cheeks, the neatly trimmed sideburns, and his earlobe. She couldn't help but blow into his earlobe. Then, seeing his ears quickly turn red. Don't make a fuss. A stern reprimand. But it didn't scare Lin Qingping, instead she laughed on his back. He kept carrying her back to the village, and when he arrived at the village entrance, he met his neighbor Chun Auntie. When he saw them from afar, he shouted, "Chengzi, go and take a look. Your family has started fighting with people. I can't even persuade them." Upon closer inspection, they were in such a posture that they suddenly froze, looking both eager and hesitant to look. Juncheng didn't take this into consideration and focused solely on the child. Upon hearing this, he released Lin Qingping and ran away. Lin Qingping also quickly followed up. Fighting in my previous life, my aspirations were rooted in these two words. This child is very intelligent, but in this era where rural people do not attach much importance to education, he did not study for a few years. After Juncheng sacrificed himself, his in-laws grew 10 years old and he did not have the heart to take care of him anymore. He made a large number of friends and was passionate about loyalty. He always stood up for his friends. Later on, he finally caused trouble and seriously injured someone. He himself went to prison, but that's all later. At this stage, Ziyuan should be very obedient. What exactly happened? He started fighting now. Lin Qingping was extremely anxious and ran all the way to the small river. Sure enough, he saw Ziyuan and the chubby guy in the village fighting each other, and even a few adults couldn't pull him away. At this time, Ziyuan was only 5 years old and had thin muscles, only half the size of Big Fat, but he was actually Big Fat when he screamed. As he approached, he realized that Ziyuan was biting Big Pang's shoulder hard. No matter how much the adult pulled, he couldn't let go. Big Pang, on the other hand, felt more and more pain and cried loudly because of the adult's pull. Li Ziyuan. Juncheng walked over with a solemn and cold voice. Ziyuan immediately breathed a sigh of relief and was carried back home by Juncheng amidst the chubby cries and the voices of villagers. Li Ziyuan's temperament is quite stubborn at heart, otherwise he wouldn't have caused big trouble in the future. At this moment, his face was scratched with paw marks, but he gritted his teeth and refused to say why he wanted to fight. Juncheng punished him to stand in the corner and ponder. Ziyuan remained silent and went back to his own room without saying a word. Not long after standing, the village chief came to invite Juncheng to discuss the construction of a dam in the village. As soon as Juncheng left, Lin Qingping tried to talk to Ziyuan, but her relationship with Ziyuan was not good before, and they ignored each other. To break the ice now, we also need to work hard. Everything has to start, right? Lin Qingping brought a cup of hot milk that had been brewed and handed it to him. Ziyuan glanced at it, then turned his head back and remained silent. It's good for children to drink milk powder. They are tall, don't you want to grow taller? Even taller than chubby. Lin Qingping touched the rim of his cup to his mouth. Ziyuan hesitated for a while and drank it all in one breath. Lin Qingping smiled slightly and said, "That's right. In the future, I'll drink it every day, you know. When I'm not around, I'll make my own drink." Ziyuan didn't know why, so his eyes turned red, but the child had strong self-esteem and turned around to hide their red eyes. What's wrong? Lin Qingping asked as gently as possible. I'll go, you don't have to do this. After all, it's the child. No matter how stubborn and trying to hold back, tears still streamed down at this point. Lin Qingping doesn't know why he said that. Why did he suddenly have to leave? Just as I was about to continue asking, there was a commotion outside. Chapter 5. Do you believe rumors? You are listening at life.Audio. The chubby mother led a large family to trouble the Gu family and shouted loudly outside, "Lu Fun. Bring out your little bunny." She heard her mother.in law Lu Fun grit her head and go out. Lu Fun is a kind-hearted person, otherwise Lin Qingping would have been the mastermind in her previous life. But how could such a person be the opponent of a group of shrews? Lin Qingping could only temporarily release Ziyuan and open the door without saying a word. Behind him, Ziyuan's small voice said, "Don't." But the rest of the conversation was locked behind the door by Lin Qingping, and there must be some hidden information about the fight. But now is not the time to inquire in detail. Let's dismiss this group of people first. The commotion outside became even more intense, with a group of women surrounding Lu Fun, chattering incessantly, making her unable to resist. Is it just a matter of losing some money? Call that brat out for me. Tell him to come out and apologize. Kowtow and apologize. Lu Fun was still accompanying him carefully. The child knew he was wrong, and now he is contemplating. Cheng Zi will go home soon and educate him well. But the other party refused, asking Li Ziyuan to go out. Lin Qingping rushed forward, pushed aside those women, and pulled her mother.in law out of the crowd, protecting her behind her. It's our responsibility to talk things over, and we won't evade it. My mother.in law also said, we should compensate, we should educate, and we are all from the same village. We can't look up or down, but in the future, our children will still play together. Why do we have to make such a scene? The chubby mother suddenly jumped up and cursed, who wants to play with wild kids? Our innocent children don't play with wild kids without fathers or mothers. With a crisp bang, the chubby woman was slapped on the face. The person who hit her is Lin Qingping. Lin Qingping originally intended to reason well, but obviously, this reason doesn't make sense. Wild children in his past life, this was the most taboo word for Ziyuan. In this life, although he was only 5 years old, he was early-witted and sensitive. The 3 words, wild child, were a heart-wrenching pain for him who lived under someone else's protection. Lin Qingping stood straight, with a commanding aura similar to that of Gu Juncheng. She even imitated Gu Juncheng by squinting her eyes and angrily scolding, "Wild child. Big chubby mother, listen to me. My father, Ziyuan, sacrificed his life for the country. Sacrifice heroically. Today, you can safely farm at home and gossip about people. It is precisely because there are countless soldiers like Ziyuan's father who are not afraid of sacrifice and are willing to die, guarding peace. Defending our beautiful life. How dare you curse Ziyuan's wild child? Do you deserve those soldiers who sacrificed their lives for justice? You deserve it. Do you want to raise those soldiers who are still defending our country? Let me tell you. Ziyuan is not a wild child. He is a hero's child. All the soldiers in the Qingzi company are his father. All the military sister.in law are his mother. Lin Qingping's righteous words intimidated the chubby woman. The Gu family had such a child and never claimed to be a descendant of the martyr. Now that the Pangyang knows about it, she dare not say anything more about her aspirations, but she is also extremely angry and embarrassed. She immediately erupted, "Are you his mother? You are a broken shoe, why should you be the mother of the martyr's descendant?" Grandma Lu Fan's face changed when she heard this. She held on to Lin Qingping tightly, trembling her voice and pleading with the chubby mother, "Don't say anything, I'll apologize for you. I'll come to your door and apologize for you later. Don't say anything, please. Lin Qingping was shocked by the words, broken shoes, but listening to the meaning of these words, what does mother.in.law know? A loud shout echoed from behind, don't apologize. I'm right, and a small figure blocked in front of Lin Qingping and Lu Fun. Ziyuan actually rushed out. Lin Qingping picked up Ziyuan and held him in his arms, holding him tightly to prevent him from being beaten by these people. However, the little one was emotional and shouted wildly, one person does things, one person does it. You have the guts to hit me. Don't bully grandma. What else? You can kill or cut as you please. I'm right. However, he shouted fiercely and exuded heroic spirit, but he died before he could succeed in his apprenticeship. Juncheng returned at some point and picked up Ziyuan with his collar. The little thing was kicking around in the air, you put me down. You coward. If you don't ask them, they're all talking about your mother.in.law in the village. You're not venting your anger on your mother.in. Law. What kind of man are you? Lin Qingping. Mrs. Juncheng. Are you talking about her? What's up with her here? Juncheng threw Li Ziyuan away and returned home, his tall body blocking Lin Qingping and Lu Fun, separating the group of troublemakers behind him. You all go back, don't come out. His deep voice, with a calming power, pierced through the noise of those people and gently hit Lin Qingping's eardrums. Lin Qingping shook her head and said, no. She wanted to know what Big Pang Yang was going to say. The words, tattered shoes, are too heavy for a rural woman, go in. Juncheng became more stern in his commanding tone, and his gaze also became majestic. Lin Qingping hesitated and Juncheng frowned slightly. Do you want me to throw it in too? Lin Qingping. After all, he turned around and went home. Juncheng closed the door, and Lin Qingping, mother.in.law, and Li Ziyuan were all locked inside. Li Ziyuan was still shouting outside from inside, no apologies. No apologies. Who dares to speak nonsense again? I hear it once and I have to hit it again. A quiet and timid child in peacetime is completely different, as if the seal has been unsealed, and a fierce tiger has been released. Outside the door, Juncheng stood proudly, his gaze scanning the crowd. The entire crowd involuntarily retreated. Juncheng's pressure is too strong, but the chubby woman was unwilling and angrily scolded, Cheng Zi. What? Speaking of your pain, are you going to hit a woman? Are you not allowed to talk about your mother.in.law's ugliness? The unwritten regulations in the village prohibit men from participating in fights or verbal abuse between women, otherwise they will be stabbed in the spine. That's also why they dared to come and cause trouble even though they knew Juncheng was at home. The people brought by the chubby woman outside were originally a bit scared, but upon hearing these words, they were no longer afraid and began to ridicule them. That's it. What's going on? Isn't what you're saying true? Lin Qingping already had an affair with dog leftover. He's not innocent anymore. Dog residue has already said that there is a mole on Lin Qingping's chest. Lin Qingping, do you dare to show it to everyone? Prove it. Chengzi. Don't be unreasonable just because you're a soldier. If your mother.in.law dares to break shoes, others won't dare to say so. Chengzi. Does it taste good to have a green hat on top? Lin Qingping was stunned. Dog remnants are the second-rate people in the village. Yesterday morning, she was craving wild fruits in the mountains and wanted to go up the mountain to pick some. Unexpectedly, when she encountered dog leftovers and started messing with her, she was so scared that she ran away and fell heavily, rolling down the mountain slope. Fortunately, a tree blocked her, otherwise she would have to roll to the foot of the mountain. In this fall, her handkerchief fell off, and when she rolled down the mountain, her clothes may have also lifted up. She didn't even notice at the time, she didn't expect such rumors to spread in this era, in isolated rural villages, women who provoke such rumors have predictable consequences. Chapter 6. Putting this matter aside will sink the pond. You are listening at novel.Audio. She didn't know what Juncheng would think. Would he believe these rumors? But the boiling sound outside suddenly disappeared, and after these few words, it quieted down. What did Juncheng do? Curious, Ziyuan came over lightly and opened the door to spy on the enemy situation, but surprisingly, there was no one outside. Ziyuan rushed out with a swoosh. Ziyuan. Lin Qingping became anxious and followed out. From afar, a large group of people walked in a grand and mighty manner. Juncheng walked at the front, a group of women called by Pang's family walked behind, and Ziyuan's small tail fell at the back. Lin Qingping quickly caught up and grabbed Ziyuan in his hand. A group of people forgot about Ziyuan and only chased after Juncheng, asking, "Qingzi, what are you doing? If your family causes trouble, will you still beat someone out? Qingzi, if you dare to touch our family today, I will report this everywhere." Pang knew that Juncheng didn't hit women, but she was afraid that Juncheng was trying her best to find Pang's father. She led people all the way and kept shouting until Juncheng walked past their house before stopping. Juncheng went straight towards the second-rate dog remnants. I found someone on the tea-on can, poured 2 liang of yellow soup, and was snoring while spreading out his stomach. Juncheng picked him up directly and punched him in the stomach before waking up. Juncheng's fist, Lin Qingping, had seen it before in his previous life. It was truly like an iron fist. She saw him punch down and punch a hole in the door with her own eyes. Dog left received this punch, crying for his father and calling for his mother, and profanity erupted in an instant. As a result, he was punched hard on the cheek, and a mouthful of blood protruded from Dog Left's screams, with a tooth directly in the blood. This really scared the onlookers around. There were fights in the village, but it was just women pulling their hair, scratching their faces, and even more forcefully biting each other. This punch knocked out people's teeth like never before until now. Lu only saw clearly that the person who hit him was Juncheng. He immediately pointed at Juncheng and cursed, "Those surnamed Gu. Don't rely on your fists to make you hit people. I want to sue you." A crisp and explosive child voice rang out, "Bah! You go sue. If you don't sue, it's cowardly. You're ruining military marriages. You're going to jail." Lin Qingping looked at Ziyuan, who was still jumping high while being held by him, speechless. This little guy is only a few years old, how can he understand these things? But this sentence really worked. Lu was scared, and Juncheng punched him again. Lu was beaten and started howling, I didn't sleep with your wife, I was bragging. I also picked up the handkerchief, she fell to the ground and I picked it up. She doesn't have any moles on her chest, I'm talking nonsense. Stop hitting her, you're talking nonsense." Every time he howled, Juncheng punched and kicked, and another Ziyuan shouted, "Kill him! Kill him!" Lin Qingping was really worried that if he continued to fight like this, he would really kill the dog residue. Lu was speechless and was like mud, kicked back and forth by Juncheng. Grandma Lu Fun was also afraid of something wrong, so she stepped forward and grabbed Juncheng tightly to stop him from fighting again. She spat at the badly beaten dog residue and said, "Let me make you talk nonsense. Spreading rumors will also lead to imprisonment." Lu had lost his reaction, and Juncheng's gaze suddenly shifted from Lu's body to the group of women causing trouble, staring at them like a killing god. Those women involuntarily began to retreat, and some even couldn't help but shiver. Juncheng's face was like a black-faced god, with a fierce aura. He only said one sentence. "If anyone talks nonsense again, this is the end. With Juncheng's fist, I can't distinguish between men and women." After this commotion, it was almost dusk. In the twilight, he stood there like an iron tower, his gaze sweeping over anyone, and everyone couldn't help but shiver. The villagers who were watching even began to whisper, "What's going on? Do you also care about women's success? Yeah, you still have to hit a woman. Shouldn't Chengzi lose face?" Juncheng ignored these discussions directly, exerted his power, blackened his face, and headed back. Lu Fun, on the other hand, dealt with the aftermath later on. After all, it is a fact that Ziyuan bit someone, and those who should lose money still have to lose money. She also promised that Depang Yang would send her eggs and milk powder later to supplement Depang's nutrition. Lin Qingping had already led Ziyuan ahead of time. On the way, she saw the figure of a green shirt flickering behind a big tree. When she approached to take a look, she was nowhere to be seen. She didn't care about so much and felt that she was just someone watching the excitement. She quickened her steps and led Ziyuan home. When Juncheng and her mother.in-law returned, Lin Qingping had already prepared the meal. The family ate silently, and the atmosphere was so silent that it was heart-stopping. Lin Qingping peeked at Juncheng several times, and his face remained consistent. She didn't know what Juncheng was thinking in his heart at night. While taking a shower, Lin Qingping was still thinking about Juncheng's elusive attitude. With a bang, the door to the bathroom was knocked open. Lin Qingping was so shocked that she quickly blocked herself. Upon closer inspection, the person standing outside the door was her mother.in-law Lu Fun. "Oh, you're washing, I thought nobody was there," Lu Fun said, her gaze sweeping over her chest. Lin Qingping's snow-white chest was adorned with a mole. Lu Fun closed the door and left. Lin Qingping then knew that her mother.in-law's mistake was probably intentional. Night fell and the entire village fell silent. It's time to go to bed, but Juncheng hasn't returned to his room yet. Lin Qingping was tossing and turning while waiting. After seeing the mole on her chest, would her mother.in-law say something to Juncheng? Thinking of this, she could no longer sit still and got up to go to the outer room. She could hear the low voices coming from her mother.in-law's room. She walked up and listened with her ears pressed against the door. "It's my mother.in-law's voice. Chengzi, let me see. Dog's words may not be true, so don't hide them from me. Do you know if your daughter.in-law has moles?" Juncheng did not answer. Lin Qingping thought to himself, he really didn't know. He hadn't touched her yet, how did he know? "I only heard my mother.in-law's voice say again, you have to protect our reputation outside and fight hard to make the dog leftover dare not talk nonsense, but what else can't our mother's family say? I just went to see, and your daughter.in-law does have a mole. She has nothing to do with the dog leftover, how does the dog leftover know?" "Stop talking," Juncheng said coldly. "Is this all I need to do without saying? When you're at home, the villagers dare not talk nonsense. After you leave, what happens? Then your father and I will just be afraid of being poked in the spine and unable to stand up straight." Juncheng fell silent again. "You have to say something. We can't afford this daughter.in-law anymore. When we get married, she will be like a sacrificial ancestor at home, and she is still dissatisfied with everything. She throws pots and bowls at home all day long, criticizing the mulberry and locust trees. We can tolerate it even if you are not at home all year round, but this matter cannot be tolerated. Putting it aside will sink the pond." Chapter 7. Lin Qingping, be honest with me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No matter what Lu Fun said, Jun remained silent until Lu Fun said, "What are you still thinking? She didn't like you when we went to discuss marriage. What she likes is that kind of gentle and handsome little white face. Dogs can't spare a person, but she is born white and pure. She is." I don't know if this passage hurt his man's self-esteem, but he finally spoke up. With a very firm, "Don't say it," the sound of a chair falling to the ground echoed inside. "He's coming out." Lin Qingping quickly returned to the house. Lying back in bed, Lin Qingping felt both aggrieved and sad. However, most of what her mother.in-law said was true. She didn't really like Gu Juncheng and indeed liked Little White Face, but that was before when her mother.in-law said this. She didn't blame her. Lu Fun was originally a traditional rural woman with a soft temper and was easily provoked. However, it was precisely because of Lu Fun's weakness that Lin Qingping had been bullying the Gu family in her previous life, and Lu Fun tolerated her. Especially when Gu Juncheng's will required all the compensation to be given to her, Lu Fun didn't make a fuss. In fact, Lu Fun was qualified to make a fuss. She didn't blame her mother.in-law for making such remarks today, just because Lin Qingping was comfortable in her mother.in-law's house in her previous life. Moreover, living a life requires a long time and seeing people's hearts over time. As time goes on, it is easy for her mother.in-law to understand, provided that this day can continue to pass, that is, what exactly does Gu Juncheng think in his heart amidst the chaos of thoughts. The door unexpectedly opened. He actually came into the house. She thought he was going to squeeze a room with Ziyuan, but was he here to raise a question? Or did you mention divorce? Anyway, she can't suffer unjustly like this. Gu Juncheng, like the previous night, made a floor and slept on his own after entering the house. Lin Qingping's heart was filled with grievances. He sat up and asked him, "Don't you believe me?" As he looked at his bunk in the darkness. The person on the floor is silent. What does silence mean? Lin Qingping almost burst into tears. She restrained herself, jumped out of bed, turned on the light, and asked in front of him, "You say, don't you believe me?" Asking, without realizing it, my eyes turned red and my voice choked up. Gu Juncheng's eyes were pitch black, as deep as the night sky, unable to discern what was inside. Lin Qingping worked tirelessly, grabbing the hem of his clothes and brushing them, pulling them open. For a moment, buttons bounced everywhere, and one of them jumped onto his face, causing him to blink. Under the light, she had a clear view. Her eyes were filled with tears and she was extremely aggrieved. "Look, Gu Juncheng, I do have a mole. Do you think I really have an affair with someone else?" He finally stopped being so calm, his eyes hurriedly looked elsewhere, pulled up his own blanket and wrapped it around her, his tone urgent and cold. "Stop fussing. Go to sleep." "I don't sleep." Being wrapped up by Gu Juncheng like this, she was completely wrapped in the same blanket as Gu Juncheng, tightly pressed together. When Gu Juncheng realized this, it was already too late. Lin Qingping took advantage of the situation and wrapped himself around him in a soft and hot voice, pressing against his ears. His voice was soft, with a crying sound. "I can prove that between me and dog leftover, I am innocent to anyone. Gu Juncheng, you can prove." As she spoke, her lips opened and closed, touching his ears one by one, and hot air sprayed onto his earbuds. His whole body tightened, his guard full. "Lin Qingping. Be honest with me." He stiffened all over and growled calmly. Lin Qingping remained silent and only reached out to embrace his waist. Through his vest, he could feel the tightness of his waist muscles. Immediately, her hand was held down by him. He looked at her, his eyes like the night sky, with flames dancing inside. He gritted his teeth and said, "Lin Qingping. Don't ask for trouble on your own." Her face was only as big as her palm, her head covered in scattered green hair, her chin provocatively raised, her eyes moist with water, and two sparkling tears hanging from her, ready to fall at any moment. "So what do you want me to do? How can I prove it? Mom no longer believes me, and if you don't believe me either, what should I do? Of course, I can only prove myself in my own way." She cried, her nose turning red with grievances, her eyebrows and cheeks all dyed pink, like peach blossoms blown by rain and wind, so delicate that they seemed to be crushed. Gu Juncheng was about to be laughed at by her, his face taut, and he said, "Lin Qingping, you can't tell. When you play against people during the day, you're so angry. Are you so naughty now? Lin Qingping. I didn't expect to hear him playing against big fat girl during the day. She blinked and tears streamed down like beads. That's who I am. Do you believe me like this? Do you believe me? Lin Qingping had already spared no effort, wrapping his arms around his neck and not letting go. His lips were pressed against his ear, and in a gentle voice, only the one he heard, "Gu Juncheng, I'll go to the village tomorrow to shout." You can't do it. You're not a man. Lin Qingping. She finally angered him, and he let out a shout and looked straight at her. Lin Qingping said just one word, but was blocked by a rough and soft sensation. He looks really angry. She felt like she was about to be crushed by him. His breath was full of his scent, and soon, his mind was also filled with it. Just as she felt dizzy and almost unable to bear it, grabbing his hair, he suddenly retreated and lay back, panting heavily. Lin Qingping's mind was still buzzing, and he was still a bit confused. Sleep. He whispered and turned off the light. Lin Qingping only felt a numbness on his lips, and the rough stubble still left a scorching temperature on the ground. For a long time, a low voice came from the darkness. I believe. She turned around in shock, but the person didn't say a word. She smiled slightly and fell asleep with Gu Juncheng's arm in her arms. In her heart, she said, "It's not easy. It was only after thinking about all the sad things in the previous life that I finally shed some tears. Finally, I have gained something. I don't know when it started raining heavily. The summer rain was as dense as scattered beans, but it didn't disturb Lin Qingping's sleep at all. The next day when she woke up, without any surprise, Lin Qingping slept on the bed again, and the floor had already been put away. Lin Qingping was holding the blanket, feeling a bit embarrassed. Do you really want to wake up early? She felt that it was really not her fault. In fact, since her rebirth, she has often been unable to sleep well and has nightmares. She dreams of her nephew's ferocious face, the feeling of suffocation when she is on the brink of death, and repeatedly dreams of receiving telegrams from the military that he sacrificed. She holds the telegram and cries bitterly every night when she wakes up from nightmares. The heart-wrenching pain in her dreams clearly oscillates in her chest, making it difficult for her to sleep soundly. However, these 2 nights, despite sleeping on the ground, she has slept so soundly. Chapter 8. His Childhood Sweetheart. You are listening at novel.Audio. Suddenly, I heard the voice of Gu Juncheng speaking from outside, as if ordering him to stand in the corner of the wall again. She quickly got up to tidy up and saw Gu Juncheng coming out of Ziyuan's room. Seeing her, Gu Juncheng coughed twice and turned his gaze to one side. Lin Qingping. What's on this person's mind? What's wrong with Ziyuan? Gu Juncheng's expression became normal. Stinky kid, you learned to run away from home. I caught you at the village entrance. Lin Qingping suddenly remembered what Ziyuan said yesterday. He will leave surprisingly, it's true. She still carried a glass of milk into Ziyuan's room. Ziyuan's small body stood with a very standard military posture, with a straight body. He didn't turn back when he heard someone coming in. Ziyuan, she called him, haven't you had milk today? Ziyuan tilted his head slightly and ignored her. She hasn't broken the ice with Ziyuan yet. Since she got married, she has been ignoring Ziyuan. Ziyuan doesn't like her, but Ziyuan is well aware that she is Uncle Gu's wife and his own person. Therefore, if someone slanders her outside, they must maintain her reputation no matter what. This is to protect Uncle Gu's face. Lin Qingping looked at this little carrot head and felt very sorry in her heart. Come, drink milk first, as last time, feeding it to his mouth. This time, he didn't drink, lowered his head, and dodged. What's wrong? Can you tell me? She asked patiently. I heard from Uncle Gu that you're leaving. The word go finally made him move, but he buried his head lower and said, I'll leave when Uncle Gu returns to the army. Why are you leaving? Where are you going? She asked in surprise. Ziyuan fell silent again. After thinking for a moment, Lin Qingping put down the milk cup and said, what if I say, I won't let you go? Upon hearing this, Ziyuan suddenly raised his head. Lin Qingping noticed that the child indeed had red eyes. I won't let you go, Ziyuan, she repeated. Then. Give me eggs, give me milk powder. The little one stuttered. What does this have to do with you leaving? She didn't understand either. Ziyuan lowered his head and said, in the drama and storytelling, it's like this. Give good wine and food, give some gifts and then send the guests away. Lin Qingping. Surprisingly, there was such a misunderstanding. A sensitive and precocious child really thinks too much, I. Lin Qingping hugged Ziyuan, who had been me for a while, and said, Ziyuan, I didn't mean that. You misunderstood me. In the future, you will have eggs to eat and milk to drink every day. I will make them for you, and I will make them for you at home. I just hope you look tall and strong, like Uncle Gu. Ziyuan didn't speak, but Lin Qingping felt that her thin summer shirt had moistened the area where Ziyuan's eyes were pressed. Ziyuan, thank you for calling me Mom. In this life, both of us have started over again. Lin Qingping didn't let Ziyuan continue to stand in the corner, watching him drink milk, then boil an egg for him to eat, and then start busy with his meal. In her past life, she worked in the catering industry and had a considerable expertise in cooking. However, during her time as a family member, she became famous for being lazy in never working hard, and never letting others down on delicious food. But today, she walked into the kitchen. My mother.in.law seemed to see the sun setting in the west. Well. Qingzi finally came back, I'll make him something to eat, Lin Qingping explained. You. Go ahead and do something else, I'll do it. No matter how well the daughter.in.law acted and had this kind heart for her son, Lu Fan felt a little more comfortable and gave her the kitchen. In this era of rural areas, material resources were really limited. Oil, sugar, and mother.in.law were like treasures, and they were reluctant to use them in daily life. Lin Qingping didn't dare to waste them and only used the existing ingredients to make a meal. Steamed and ground the big pumpkin into mud, mixed with corn flour, and made a pot full of pumpkin pancakes. I can't bear to use deep frying, a little bit until it's cooked, but it's delicious. The pumpkin grown in the countryside is already sweet, and when it's ready, it happens to be the less sweet sweetness that people love when desserts become popular decades later. Then, the tofu was roasted directly, sprinkled with chili powder and salt. Although it didn't have the stunning effect of pre-fried tofu or stir-fried tofu, it was much better than my mother.in.law's cooking skills of only stir-frying tofu and often blackening it. The lentils were stir-fried in an iron pot, and the green peppers were also stir-fried. When mixed together, they were so fragrant that my mother.in. Law thought she had cooked the kitchen. Another large plate of cabbage was stir-fried, and the rice was ready. As he served the table, Ziyuan stared at the pumpkin cake, his eyes lit up, and his mother.in.law was also shocked. Lin Qingping first gave Ziyuan 2 pumpkin cakes and said to his mother.in.law, Mom, you eat first. I'll go call Dad and Qingzi back for dinner. She thought Gu Juncheng was helping her father.in.law with his work, but when she arrived in the field, she found that only her father.in.law was there. After calling her father.in.law, she continued to look for Gu Juncheng and walked around the village. She didn't see anyone, but saw everyone running up the back mountain. Hurry up. The back mountain collapsed, I heard someone was injured. Let's go. Go take a look. The old and young people in the village are still very enthusiastic, running towards the mountain. Lin Qingping's heart trembled with fear. Isn't it that Gu Juncheng is also on the mountain? She searched everywhere but couldn't find it. She immediately followed the villagers up the mountain. We quickly arrived at the site of the landslide. Lin Qingping looked up from bottom and saw Gu Juncheng hanging from a tree, holding onto a branch with one hand and a person named Chen Xia with the other. Manshanggu only heard Chen Xia's cry, Qingzi Gu, don't let go. I'm afraid. Lin Qingping's heart was hanging on Gu Juncheng's body, and the tree he was climbing was already on the verge of collapse. The two of them were not really high off the ground. As long as Gu Juncheng released his hand and jumped down, neither of them could die. However, it is difficult to say whether he broke his arm or leg. The most important thing is that Gu Juncheng passed away young in his previous life, and Lin Qingping already has a shadow in his heart, unable to bear any danger he may encounter. She didn't even dare to shout, afraid of scaring Gu Juncheng, who accidentally fell down. The villagers opened fishing nets under the collapsed cliff and shouted to the people above, "Qingzi, come down. We'll catch you." "Okay. I let go. Tighten it." Gu Juncheng shouted loudly. Subsequently, Gu Juncheng let go and the two of them fell into the fishing net together. Seeing Gu Juncheng safely fall into the net, Lin Qingping breathed a sigh of relief. However, what happened to the two people in the net? Chen Xia hugged Gu Juncheng's neck and burst into tears. "Wu, Qingzi Gu, thank you. Wu, Qingzi Gu, you really scared me to death." Lin Qingping discovered that Chen Xia was wearing a green top. She suddenly remembered the figure that flashed by behind the big tree that day. The woman's intuition sounded the alarm bell in Lin Qingping's ear. Chen Xia was the person who cancelled his engagement with Gu Juncheng because he despised Ziyuan. But didn't Chen Xia get engaged to a young man who came to the countryside to exercise in the city? That was before she married Gu Juncheng. Why are you here now? Chapter 9. Brotherly Like. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's just that in her previous life, she really didn't pay much attention to the Gu family and Gu Juncheng, to the extent that she didn't pay any attention to Chen Xia. The villagers stepped forward and helped Gu Juncheng and Chen Xia up from the net. Chen Xia finally didn't want to hang it around Gu Juncheng's neck anymore, but picked up Gu Juncheng's hand and said, "Ah, Qingzi brother, your hand is bleeding. What should I do? It's all me who caused you this." Lin Qingping stood at the back of the crowd, his gaze piercing through the crowd, staring at these two people. Gu Juncheng, a person with extremely high sensitivity, had already noticed her presence. He withdrew his hand and spoke lightly, "It's okay, it's just a minor injury." When the villagers saw someone save them, they all went their separate ways. The farming was busy. After the mountain, only Gu Juncheng, Lin Qingping, and Chen Xia remained. At this moment, Chen Xia saw Lin Qingping standing next to Gu Juncheng, calling out, "Sister.In.Law," and showing a very surprised expression on her face. "Are you here too?" Lin Qingping didn't know whether Chen Xia's surprise was real or fake. He smiled and looked at Gu Juncheng. "Mom didn't tell me there was a younger sister at home. Why don't I know her?" Gu Juncheng wanted to say something, and Chen Xia immediately took it over and smiled, saying, "I met Qingzi Gu when we were wearing open crotch pants. It's all my fault today. I shouldn't have made plans with Qingzi Gu to reminisce about the past, but we ended up encountering a landslide that injured Qingzi Gu. Sorry, Sister.In.Law. TSK 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 TSK. Lin Qingping murmured in his heart, "This rank is really high." Lin Qingping smiled slightly and took Gu Juncheng's arm. "Qingzi, the food at home is ready. Mom asked me to call you for dinner. Do you want to go, your friend?" Chen Xia's gaze fell on Gu Juncheng's arm that she was holding. In rural areas these days, there are not many couples who openly hang hands with each other. Chen Xia's gaze dimmed and she smiled awkwardly, No, I have something else to do." "Oh, let's go first. Goodbye." Lin Qingping took Gu Juncheng's arm and walked down the mountain, occasionally looking up at him. He found a withered grass at his temples and smiled, reaching out to pick it up. Chen Xia was behind them, watching Lin Qingping with a bright smile, her eyes becoming increasingly dim. Lin Qingping knew that Gu Juncheng was looking at her. From the moment she held Gu Juncheng's hand on the mountain, Gu Juncheng was watching her. But Lin Qingping pretended not to know. Returning home, she retrieved the medicine that Juncheng had applied to her arms the night before yesterday and sat in front of him, ordering him to extend his hand. The reason for using commands is that a tough guy like Juncheng, with a little rubbing on the back of his hand, wouldn't even care about it. This is different from what we usually do. He completely ignored her. Lin Qingping could only bluff and say, "I don't care how you train on a regular basis. In the army, your soldiers listen to you, and at home, you have to listen to me." Later, Juncheng had no choice but to extend his hand to her. She ignored her and carefully applied medicine to the back of his hand, blowing and blowing at the same time. Juncheng looked down at her with a serious expression, feeling somewhat speechless. Lin Qingping didn't care what he thought. After she was satisfied with the painting, she let him go to eat. The table she made today, Ziyuan had finished eating and still couldn't bear to leave. When they went out, Grandma Lu Fun was still saying, "Ziyuan, if you like to eat, eat more. Why did you run away?" Lin Qingping knew that Ziyuan likes to eat today's pumpkin pancakes, but the child under her care, who had been disliked by her before, was inevitably sensitive and couldn't change for a while. She left 2 pumpkin cakes for Ziyuan and will give them to him later. Speaking of which, in his past life, Ziyuan had always liked to eat sweets. He was a stubborn and social person who would love to eat sweets. Juncheng was taken aback by the food at this table. If it were her, she would also be stunned. After all, since she married into the Gu family, the whole Gu village has never seen her work. Juncheng always eats quickly. She sits across from him, unfinished a pumpkin pie, and he has already finished a big bowl. "Is it delicious?" she asked him with a smile, her voice coquettish, with a hint of coquettishness. Juncheng was about to eat his second bowl when he heard this and paused with his chopsticks. After taking a bite, he said, "She called me to help with the orchard, but her brother's foot is injured." Lin Qingping bit the pumpkin cake, nodded, and smiled with his eyes curved. Is he really answering her that the lunch is delicious? Still explaining what happened on the mountain to her. She naturally refers to Chen anyway. His temperament is like this, he's stuffy and won't directly say anything in his heart. It was like this in his past life, and he doesn't know what he's thinking. He only sends her money and good things that cannot be bought in the countryside on time every month. He still has a high reputation in the village. The village chief believes that he is from the army and knows a lot. When he comes back, he always seeks his opinions on everything. Just after having dinner, he is invited back. I was busy all afternoon with this task. In the evening, I left Juncheng at home for dinner and even invited Lin Qingping to join me. Lin Qingping is happy. She went happily, but as a result, she walked in front of the door, followed by Chen Xia. Chen Xia smiled and picked up a piece of meat, saying, "Secretary, during this time when my brother's foot was injured, it's a shame that your family helped with our farming work. Otherwise, I don't know what to do. My brother asked me to thank you." Then, with a surprised expression, Qingzi and sister.In.Law are also here. The secretary chuckled and said, "Yes, I'll leave my son and the young couple to eat. Can you join in too?" Chen Xia glanced at Juncheng and Lin Qingping. "That's great. I haven't seen Qingzij for a long time, sister.In.Law, do you mind?" Lin Qingping's face was smiling, but her heart was filled with joy. Does the village chief mind if she asks for a meal at home? She shouldn't be so rude, right? Besides, even if she said she cared, didn't Chen Xia sit down? The dishes were served on the table, and the village branch secretary brought out a jar of homemade wine. In this era, alcohol is a luxury item. How could the villagers buy alcohol to drink? All the wine is made by oneself, and even if it is made, it is impossible to make rice wine. The grain is precious, but it is just various wild fruits on the mountain, such as wild plums, wild grapes, wild plums, etc. After picking and making wine, Gu family village is backed by the mountains. Almost every family is like this. The secretary enthusiastically filled Gu Juncheng with wine, but Gu Juncheng said he would not drink and would return to the army the next day. One hand reached out and picked up the cup in front of Gu Juncheng. Brother Qingzi has discipline and cannot drink. Let me drink this cup for him, he said. Qinxia. Lin Qingping thinks that this person is really interesting. Qinxia looked at Lin Qingping with a simple and innocent expression on her face. Sister-in-law, I and brother Qingzi are like brothers. I drank for him. Chapter 10. Showering. You are listening at life.Audio. Lin Qingping. That's really interesting. In this era, there won't be men, women, brothers, and women, will there? Lin Qingping smiled, took a new cup, placed it in front of her, and filled it with wine. When no one knew what she was going to do, she tilted her neck and drank it all in one gulp. Gu Juncheng, who was beside her, grabbed her cup and lightly chuckled at her. What are you doing? Lin Qingping smiled and said, Secretary, I have to rely on my young age. You won't blame me and say that you're not right. The secretary was shocked and said, What do I have? Haven't you noticed that yet? Qinxia, you just want to drink, but do you look down on lesbian women? Why don't you pour her out? You're even going to grab my family's adult wine. Are you not treating guests well? Lin Qingping was indeed young at the moment, and jokingly saying this made the secretary burst into laughter. That's right, that's right. It's me who wasn't thoughtful. Come on, fill it up. The secretary smiled and filled it up for Qinxia, then looked at Lin Qingping, then you. The daughter-in-law of Qingzi just said she can't look down on female comrades, but this wine glass has been taken by Qingzi again, so should we fill it up? Lin Qingping smiled and said, Let me drink our Qingzi wine. Are you joking? Don't drink. Gu Juncheng covered the mouth of the cup with his hand and solemnly apologized to the secretary, saying that he couldn't drink anymore. Of course, the secretary wouldn't force it, but Qinxia felt awkward holding that glass of wine, whether to drink or not. However, there were not only a few of them on the table, but also several village officials. The branch secretary was very delicate and lively, greeting Qinxia together. The people who ate together were all acquaintances from the village, either growing up with Gu Juncheng or watching him grow up. As they ate and talked, they began to reminisce about the past. The most lively person is Qinxia. Do you remember when we were a few children stealing persimmons from Jishu's house? Our aunt caught us and wanted to beat our hands. Yes, you're too timid and scared, a young man agreed with her. You're still saying it. It's best for Qingzai to fight for me. You only know how to run on your own. Qinxia angrily glanced at the young man and gave Gu Juncheng a smile. The young man smiled and said, It's you and Qingzi who are foolish. Auntie is just teasing us and doesn't know how to fight, okay? Gu Juncheng also smiled when he said this. The dull Gu Juncheng finally spoke more in the atmosphere of reminiscing about his childhood, but on the contrary, Lin Qingping had nothing to say. Gu Juncheng had never participated in his childhood and youth. She couldn't get in a word, and she didn't even understand what they were saying. Especially, Qinxia always intentionally or unintentionally said how Gu Juncheng, who was a big brother when he was young, protected her, although she told herself that she was born again and should have a strong mentality, which was not Gu Juncheng's fault. She was still held in her heart by a faint regret, a faint sourness. When Qinxia mentioned about them going swimming in the river together in open crotch pants, Lin Qingping's glass was filled with alcohol. She was drinking one cup at a time, and Gu Juncheng probably started chatting with them, but didn't notice her, did he? Unconsciously, their conversation could no longer be heard clearly, leaving only a buzzing sound. That's great, finally don't hear any annoying voices. However, everything in front of me also shook. She rubbed her eyes and felt dizzy. She couldn't help but grab onto Gu Juncheng's arm to stabilize herself. Finally, she leaned against his shoulder. Gu Juncheng. I want to go home. She murmured softly, feeling sour in her heart and eyes. Her voice seemed to be mixed with wine, sticky and soft. Then, it seemed as if there was a burst of laughter. One arm rested on her waist. She was completely dizzy, trying to open her eyes, only to see many blurry shadows. They were all friends of Juncheng, as if they were all laughing. Are you laughing at her? Juncheng. When a person gets drunk, it seems that they are particularly prone to being wronged. She calls him, aggrieved. Who made him only focus on talking to friends and ignoring her for so long? His friend still laughed at her. Then, she felt her whole body rise into the air, her face pressed against a solid and warm place. She looked up and saw only Juncheng's eyes, as black as the night sky, reflecting light and shadows, like a Milky Way. She felt dizzy and tried to reach out her hand to reach his eyes, laughing foolishly. Juncheng, there are stars in your eyes. Another burst of laughter. Hmph. Why laugh at her? However, amidst the chaotic voices, she accurately heard Juncheng's voice, but couldn't hear what he was saying. Then, she distanced herself from the noise and felt the night breeze blowing. When the cool breeze blew, she felt her face so hot. Juncheng. Am I drunk? She still had self-awareness. Not allowed to drink, but secretly drinking. I want to see how much you can drink. Is it Juncheng speaking? She looked up and saw that he seemed to be laughing. Does he also laugh at her? Don't laugh at me. She groaned and made a scene, lying on his chest without revealing her face. It's not far from the Jishu family to the Gu family. Juncheng's feet were fast and he hugged her for a while before walking over. He didn't know who he had said drunk to, so he carried her straight into their room and placed her on the bed. Lin Qingping felt very uncomfortable. Hot, sticky on the body. She sat up again from the bed and said, I need to take a shower. Then he walked out unsteadily. Juncheng supported her and said, Why are you so? No, I need to take a shower. I don't feel comfortable. She pushed him away and continued to the bathroom. The entire route follows the S.line in the end. Juncheng helped her go. When she arrived at the bathroom, she also had to fetch hot water by herself. Juncheng was scared by her appearance and asked her to stand still. She is a drunk person, where can she listen to reason? I have to do it myself. Juncheng was so annoyed by her that he couldn't help but give a habitual command and shout, Stop. Stand at attention. He was originally a rough person, accustomed to shouting slogans in the army, with a loud voice and a command that sounded more like thunder. Even Lin Qingping, who was drunk, was also shocked. As expected, he stood there obediently and then lowered his head. Juncheng poured hot water to the temperature of the matter, and when he called her again, he found her standing obediently, bowing her head and not moving. Just now it was so noisy, why did it suddenly become quiet? He walked over and said to her, All right, you can wash it now. But I saw her shoulders shrug and shrug. Juncheng. Bending down to take a look, my goodness, tears are streaming down here.